So I think one thing to first consider, and this is going back to that sort of meta topic, is if you are reading an article about, like, I don't know, specific grip for your deadlift or something like that, and you're doing all this research and you're like, oh, should I put my thumb on this side or should I, do this? And you're not getting the fundamentals right, it isn't going to matter. If it's something that small and that detailed, I think if you have confidence in the paper, the population matches you or the person you're trying to apply it to, it seems like they have a good number of subjects, you can't think of very many alternative conclusions that aren't ridiculous looking at their data, then at that point, if it's a detail, try it. Because there's going to be variability. Any of these things, there's going to be a little bit of individual variability. And if you're trying to apply it to you or a population, it's not dangerous. It's just a detail and you feel confident about it. Try it. See what happens. So that's where case study becomes really valuable, because the only actual result that matters is yours or the person that you're training or helping out, right? So at some point, you just have to do your own experimentation. But do that once you feel very confident in the conclusion that you've from the literature.
And you're dialing in the fundamentals, like you said. You've got all that dialed in, and then you can start to play around with stuff. No, that's
right.
That's...
Don't worry about like how many grams of creatine you're taking a day if you don't eat protein or train, right? So.
Yeah. Somebody was giving me shit for microwaving my plastic containers the other day.
Oh God.
You call yourself an athlete?
And yeah, well, it's probably not the healthiest thing to do, but then I looked over at what they were eating, and then I just, felt better about myself. So I said, I'll take my plastic toxins.
You probably snatch more than they do too, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mel, I think we lost your audio. Did your headphones die? Okay. I think this conversation is not just for the listeners. We're not just talking to people who have no scientific background, because we talk about this in the Clinical Athlete Forum with students and clinicians, because we don't get our DPT program. Like, we're doctorates here. Like, I have that DBT, but that's not a research doctorate, and we don't get a ton. It's a clinical doctorate. We don't get a ton of experience or forced to read research. We have a couple research classes, and then it's really like kind of a unwritten rule. Oh, you should be evidence-based. But they don't necessarily teach you how to really analyze those things. And I think it just takes a lot of practice. Like I love that point that you made, Mel, is like, you need to set aside some time. And you're not just going to gloss over this thing while you're watching football and get something out of a research article. You've got to go back and forth. And by the time you're out of the method, you're like, oh, thank God that's over. And then you start reading the results, and then you're like, oh, wait, how did they do that? Or what was the outcome measure? And then you got to go back up to the methods. And like you said, you're reading the research article 2 or 3 times before you feel like you have a comfortable grasp on what's going on to even really talk about it. So just keep that in mind, guys. This applies to everyone, all of us included too.